Hi all, welcome to today's discussion on the next part of supply. We have made our initial discussion towards supply, where we came out and highlighted that the supply definition can be broadly categorized into four pockets. A general term supply, in case of import of service, how it has to be handled. Certain activities are deemed to be supplied by the government, which is very popularly called as Schedule 1 activities, followed by activities that are treated by government neither as supply of goods nor as supply of services, which are Schedule 3 activities, which we are about to learn today. And always there was a conflict all along whether a particular transaction has to be understood as a supply of goods or a supply of services. For those purposes, government themselves has stepped in and inserted a schedule wherein which they come out and says those transactions that are getting reflected in that schedule would be treated either as a supply of goods or supply of services. For example, construction service. In independent India, over the last 35-40 years, left, right, center, we are debating on this topic, construction service. Construction service or construction activity per se, is it a supply of goods by one person to another? Or is it a supply of service by a person? Or it is a supply of an immovable property? So there were confusions. If you say immovable property, then it will not be leviable to GST. You all know. But what will happen in case of supply of goods or supply of services? Again, rate of tax is different. Let me remind you why Schedule 2 is important. The rates are different. When we go there at that relevant point, I will take you through in a more detailed way. At a gross nutshell, though we know that supply can be only this four pockets, generally all forms of supply made or agreed to be made by a person for a consideration in the course or furtherance of business, it would be termed as supply. In my humble view, always check for the two most important ingredient in a transaction. The moment you understood that there is a transaction and there is either a supply of goods or a supply of services made or agreed to be made by a person, the next two elements that you have to check always is which if it is present, then it will tantamount to supply. If it is not present, it will not tantamount to supply. What are those two major ingredients as we earlier discussed? One, furtherance of business. That activity a person does, that transaction that a person does, it should be in the course or furtherance of business. If it is in the course or furtherance of business, then no doubt it would be treated as a supply. Sir, is course and furtherance of business alone is sufficient? That there is not a need, there is a consideration. No doubt, consideration should be there. Consideration plus in the course or furtherance of business makes a transaction. Yes, it would be a supply. So, five ingredients, all form of a supply, could be any form, good made or agreed to be made by a person for a consideration in the course or furtherance of business. Moving forward. In case of import of services, I think we have already discussed on this topic. We will just glimpse it and walk away. See, understand today it's a global village, and I'm damn sure that if we are all virtually sitting, if we are all going to meet at a later date and you're going to introduce to me 15 years later, I had an opportunity to listen to you, where which we now do to various seniors who groomed us. Uh, by the time when we discuss, I'm so and so pursuing this, you would have minimum traveled 50 countries, 50 countries. Now, why I'm highlighting is so much is the opportunity, so much is the possibilities. And today, everybody is not doing everything. If they want, they subscribe. For example, currently we are streaming the whole interactive session through a particular paid services of a foreign country fellow. So the point that I want to drive home here is in case of import of service. Let me repeat. In case of import of services. Supplier will be outside India, recipient in India, place of supply is in India, where that import of service for which a consideration is made by a person for business or not for business, both would be treated as supply. In my humble view, that element alone is important. You use it for business, you use it not for business, yes, it would be treated as supply. That's the crux factor of it. I will not bother you anything. It should strike to you when it comes to import of service, we will not press too much on furtherance of business. Even it is otherwise than furtherance of business, even if it is otherwise called as non-business purposes, which means what? Personal purposes. There is, even if it is there is a non-business purpose, no doubt it would be treated as an import of service. Our crux discussion, yes, this is associated with import of service. It should strike to us even for not for business. If an individual renews his PUBG game for 999 rupees, no doubt it would be treated as an import of service. Don't break your head. Who has to pay tax? Is it that individual or the foreign country, the respective app service provider? That aspect you don't break your head. Let me repeat. That we will discuss when we go to levy. For the time being, be very clear when it comes to your, is it a supply or not? We will answer that. Import of service for a consideration by a person, not for business, for pleasure, for entertainment, for personal use, will be treated as supply. That's the take. But moving forward, post this discussions associated with it, which on the other session we have pressed a lot and highlighted. Schedule 1 transactions. As far as Schedule 1 transactions is concerned, where certain transactions are deemed by the government that these transactions done even without consideration would be treated as a supply. On that, notable transactions are permanent transfer or disposal. Permanent transfer or disposal of a business asset on which ITC has been availed. Let me repeat. Permanent transfer of a business asset on which ITC has been availed. If someone has claimed ITC and there is a permanent transfer, yes, it would be treated as supply. We saw many examples, including the examples of home appliance showroom dealer who would have taken certain stocks for his personal purposes. It could be anything. Permanently, you transfer something. But that is a business asset of the organization on which ITC you have claimed. No doubt it would be treated on those transactions. There is, of course, no supply. Followed by supply of goods or services between a related person or distinct person. Two important words. The word related person is defined under defined under explanation to section 15 of CGST Act. And again, distinct person is defined under section 25 subsection 4 and 25 subsection 5. A person in a state and the same person's branch office or any other establishment in another state will be treated as two distinct persons. A person's office in one state and with another registration, if the same person has an office in the same state, that two different GSTN within the same state would be treated as distinct persons. Those are the crux points. Followed by employer, employee, officer, director, members of same family, holding company, subsidiary company, jointly controlled by, jointly controlled. Those are all called as related person. Any transaction among these people, even without consideration, it would be treated as supply, with one exception in the section. If it is a gift, without any expectation, without anything, if in case it is a gift by a employer to his employee in a financial year, up to rupees 50,000 is going to be exempt. In case it is a gift valuing more than 50,000 rupees, let's say the employer has given 2 sovereigns of gold to employee because the employee has outperformed. During the pandemic period, he has taken up very seriously. He has groomed his team, made it. Everything went on so beautiful. So points for our discussions. As the employee has outperformed, employer gave, here take 2 sovereigns of gold, roughly about 80,000 rupees. Very simple. The said activity would be leviable to GST, though it is a gift. No doubt, though it is a gift, cap is only 50,000, followed by any transaction between principal and agent, or any transaction between agent and principal, both would be treated as supply. See, these are all deemed supply because we have the Indian Contract Act, we have the accounting gap, which comes out and said again and again that the transaction between principal and agent is of a fiduciary relationship, where for all acts of the agent, principal alone is liable. So this section want to break all that fundamentals. Well, then only this model of GST would be successful. Maybe you have to think in those aspects. To ensure that success is there on the model, for reasons government came out and told. Now I do able to listen to your voice. Is it not creating an additional tax burden or an additional cash flow? If you like little look from little different perspective of your accounting, is it not an unnecessary additional cash flow? Agreed. I am not denying at all on all these things. But understand, but for this model, if you're going to go with some of the old models of any transfer between principal to agent will not be taxable, the GST model will not survive. It would have its own challenges of it. So that is the reason government went and highlighted all these, makes a deeming fiction. Any transfer between principal and agent would be treated as followed by import of service by a person from a related person. Very careful. Import of service by a person from a related person. It would be treated as a supply of service. So, points for our discussion. in case of all these transactions, make yourself comfortable. Make yourself comfortable on those transactions which are all associated with it. All these 4 transactions, it would be treated as deemed supply. We have already had an opportunity to discuss all this. There are few transactions which are neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services. What do we mean by those transactions? Services by an employee to his employer in the course or in relation to his employment. Services by employee to employer in the course or in relation to employment would be neither a supply of goods nor a supply of services. So, neither supply of goods nor supply of services in case of any employer-employee relationships. Something very important that we want to discuss over here is for all the services provided by employee to the employee will not be brought into the spec of GST. In fact, any activity or transaction of this nature is outside the ambit of GST. when you carefully read through the heading of Schedule 3, transactions, activities or transaction which are considered neither supply of goods nor supply of services. That is how it has been defined. So, services by an employee to an employer in the course or in relation to employment will be out from the tax. So it is not a supply. You can comfortably say it. If someone comes out and says you, I'm drawing a salary of 36 lakhs per annum, you will instantly say, good, happy, stay with that salary, but your activity is not treated as a supply. So GST would not be up. If in case somebody comes out and says, I'm an MLA, I'm an MP, I'm a mayor, I'm a councillor, I'm a ward member, because I manage a office, the office of MLA, the office of MP, the office of town panchayat, the office of municipality, the office of corporation mayor. For managing that office, if a salary is being paid to that person, again, that is neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services. A very careful understanding. Which means what we are trying to come out and say is, if you are going to be a person holding a post which is recognized, because you hold a post when money is being paid to him, then that money will not be treated as supply. Beyond that, any money paid to court, any money paid to tribunal for filing some cases, not a supply, regular money. Any services in relation to funeral, burial, cremation, or mortuary, not a supply. So these are some of the transactions which are not a supply. Similarly, moving forward, sale of land and sale of building. Sale of land and sale of building. So any sale of land, that sale of land and sale of building is out from the tax. Somebody sells a building, already constructed a building. Very simple. It is an immovable property, not covered here. Now, any sale of land which is subject to clause B of paragraph 5 of schedule 2. What is this? If you go and see, it's nothing but construction services. Sometimes when you sell a flat, F-L-A-T, flat, not P-L-O-T, plot, flat, F-L-A-T. In that flat, there is an undivided share of land. That undivided share of land plus for the construction, together a person pays a consideration. That undivided share of land is not a supply. It is excluded from the term supply. That is why they refer there subject to paragraph B. So coming back here, further discussions on this. Any sale of land is not a supply. Sale of building is not a supply. All those actionable claims, any actionable claim where you have a right to claim something, recollect at this time, when we define the goods, we have told goods includes actionable claim. All actionable claims are goods, no doubt, but law comes out and says very specifically in schedule 3, actionable claims other than lottery, betting and gambling alone will be leviable to GST. If it is actionable claim on debt, out. If it is actionable claim on brand, it is out. It is neither a supply of goods nor a supply of services. It's only your lottery, betting and gambling. That alone, an actionable claim on lottery, betting, gambling alone is liable to what? GST. All the other actionable claims are all not covered under GST. An activity by name called as drop shipment and high sea sales or warehouse goods sales, both are neither treated as supply of goods nor supply of services. As both of them are amendments, we will discuss in little detail both activities. to start with. Supply of goods from a place in the non-taxable territory to another place in non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India. A company in India places order to a supplier in Australia, gets the machine delivered in China. The goods moves from Australia to China because the original equipment manufacturer is located in Australia. The company in India wants that machine. The company in India don't want the machine in India. The company in India want the machine in China because the Indian company's buyer is located in China. Supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory. What do you mean by non-taxable territory, sir? Territory other than taxable territory. Then what is taxable territory, sir? A territory to which this act applies. This act here refers to CGST Act applies. Whole of India. So whole of India, you will call it as taxable territory. Anything other than India, you will call it as non-taxable territory. So US, UK, German, Japan, Indonesia, anybody you can list it, all are non-taxable territory. From a non-taxable territory, Australia, to another non-taxable territory, China, goods goes. But very interesting to note, Indian company will collect money from Chinese company. Indian company will supply those, make payment to Australian company. On behalf of Indian company, Australian company will supply the goods to China. This transaction is called as drop shipment in the business language. They call it as drop ship. Goods move from one place to another. In case of drop shipment transactions, it is neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services. Come on, goods never came to India. Sir, money came, no. See, money came as the goods came. Understand? That is where the crux point here is. Because goods is not coming into India. Without such goods, very carefully, without such goods entering into India, no doubt, yes, it would be out from your tax. Similarly, yet another important amended entry, supply of any goods to any person before before clearance for home consumption. See, home consumption, clearance for home consumption is a technical word. That word comes from customs law. When it comes to customs, when we go to customs, you will also know there is something called as bill of entry for home consumption of goods, bill of entry for warehousing of goods. Bill of entry for home consumption of goods means you paid the customs duty, you're going to clear it to your place for use. Bill of entry for warehousing of goods means you file a bill of entry that you want to store the goods. Now, supply of warehoused goods. Look at that wording. The goods is stored in the warehouse. Now, when the goods are stored in the warehouse, customs warehouse, that is before home clearance, from one warehouse to another warehouse, goods is sold. Is it possible, sir? Possible. A Limited has a warehouse, customs warehouse. B Limited has a customs warehouse. If goods moves from A Limited to B Limited customs warehouse, we call it as customs warehouse sales as per, warehouse sales as per customs law. At that time, they will not pay customs duty and the goods inside the warehouse will continue to be called as the goods inside the warehouse will continue to be called as imported goods, which means customs duty is not paid. So when customs duty will be paid, you will file a bill of entry for home consumption of goods. Once that is filed, goods will be released. When goods released, it belongs to the masses. It will not be treated as a imported goods. So sale of goods from one customs warehouse to another customs warehouse before clearance from home consumption will not be treated as supply. Similarly, sometimes company buy goods in big bulk load, okay, but they may not be in a position to take delivery of so much goods, or they are not in need of delivery of so much goods. What they do here is they will endorse the document, supply of goods by the consignee, to any other person by endorsement of document title to goods. By endorsement of document title to goods. After the goods has been dispatched from the port of origin. That is, goods are exported from, let's say, Hong Kong. Goods are coming into India. Before the goods comes into India, there is an Indian importer. He has some document, preferably customs related document, called as bill of lading, commercial invoice, things like that. On the bill of lading, he says, I transfer this document to a buyer, Mr. A. Importer transfers to Mr. A. Now kindly make a note, as the goods has transferred or document title to goods is transferred. Importer took a customs document, not customs document, a document which is used for import, that document, and signs and gives it to Mr. A, which means now the rightful holder of the goods is Mr. A. The customs department will allow only Mr. A to clear the goods. Of course, no doubt, Mr. A would have paid some money to import. Importer made an order to exporter for $5,000. Mr. A told, I am in urgent need of this material. Can you allow me to clear this? Importer told, give me $6,000. I will allow you to buy it. Mr. A paid $6,000 to importer. Importer took his document, signed it, said, I transfer all the title in my goods, which is coming 3 days later, to you. Mr. A went, showed the document, and complied the formalities and the customs, cleared the goods. Here, as the goods is sold or document title to goods is sold. Document title to goods is sold. Now, when before what? Clearance from home consumption. Has the goods crossed the Indian frontiers? Has the goods crossed the Indian customs port? No. Before that, it is sold. When it is when the goods are sold, before export or after export of goods, or before movement of goods from Hong Kong, dispatch from the port outside. After the goods has moved from export. A very specific discussion. Both high sea sales. This is in short called as your high sea sales. High sea sale and sale of warehouse goods. Both would not be treated as supply. Both will not be treated as supply. Coming back here, getting into this sums up our schedule 3. So when we go back to schedule 3, we have discussed 7 different line items. Services by employee to employer, any money paid to court fee, or any money paid to court, tribunal, all that fees and all, followed by any services in relation to funeral, burial, cremation, any money paid to a person who hold a post which is recognized by Constitution of India, or who hold a post which is going to be of MLA, MP, mayor, councillor. For that reason he was paid some salary, then yes, it is going to be out. Sale of land, sale of building is not covered under GST. All those actionable claims other than betting, gambling, lottery is out. Drop shipment is not covered. Sale of goods from one, sale of goods by I would not say sale of goods. Supply of goods or removal of goods from one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory is out from the tax net. Followed by, in case supply of goods from one customs warehouse to another customs warehouse before clearance for home consumption, that is also out from the tax net. Before the goods arriving into India, an importer of the goods sell the goods to another person, ICCs, that is also out from the tax. These transactions are not treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Moving forward. Section 7(1) capital A, newly introduced section. Earlier it was there in a different area. It was forming part of 7(1) C. Somehow some disturbance was there, some wrong understanding or misinterpretation was possible. Because of that reason, they segregated as 7(1)A. The intention of this schedule is activities or transactions to be treated. Look at that wording. In fact, only for that wording we are reading this slide. To be treated as. To be treated as means what, sir? It has to be treated like this only. You cannot treat it in the way you want it. It has to be treated like this only. Activities or transactions to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Activities or transactions to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Coming back here, moving forward. Schedule 2. As part of Schedule 2 is concerned, supply of goods or services. See, every entry that we are going to discuss here, all are disputed before the courts. We have court disputes on various transactions that we are discussing here. Is hire purchase, sale of goods by hire purchase, is a supply of goods or a supply of service? We had doubt. We went to the court. Supply of food by a restaurant, is it a supply of service or a supply of goods? I give only the right to use to you. Of course, possession also I give it to you. Ownership alone retained with me, a finance lease. Supply of goods or supply of services? I construct a building and I'm going to give back to you. During the process of construction itself, I will take money. Am I selling an immovable property to you, or am I supplying a service to you, or am I supplying goods to you? A software being supplied by me, I do everything in software and send you one file alone. Is it a supply of goods or supply of services? Software means services. A lot of us conclude. I sent you a file. A file is object which is movable. It has moved from me to you. Think. So it is a supply of goods or supply of services. We take up every topic here. Every topic was into litigation. Government don't know what to do. And one more challenge here is the rate of tax schedule, RATE. The rate of tax schedule for goods is separate. The rate of tax schedule for services is separate under GST law. Just for your information, not applicable for exam. We have a clear disclaimer by the institute which comes out and says it would not be applicable. Supply of goods by a person, supply of goods by a person. If you say it is a supply of goods, he has to refer notification 1/2017 central tax rate notification to know what is the rate of tax for his goods. Even if in case it is going to be a service, the person has to refer to notification 11/2017. Of course, central tax rate. Similarly, we have IGST notification, but our discussion here is, if it is goods, notification number is separate, rate of tax, of course, 5, 12, 18, 28 only. But for what goods 5, what goods 12, what goods 18, what goods 28, that is different. Service also same, 5, 12, 18, 28 only. But that what services 512, 18. First of all, fundamental difference. Do I need to go left side or do I need to go right side? Supply of goods, supply of services. For that only you are learning this schedule. To know whether my transaction is a service or goods. See, wherever some of the transactions are not mentioned or not covered here, on those transactions, we have to take a position. But in case if a transaction is mentioned here, what position government takes, that has to be followed by us. Maybe that our activity will come full and full in goods, but if the government took a ulta situation, no, it's a service, then we have to follow it as a service. So what position government takes, that position has to be embraced by us. That is what is the most critical discussion of it, to start with. Any transfer of title in goods. See, whenever have a fundamental understanding. Whenever there is a title transfer means ownership transfer. Always it will be a supply of goods. Wherever title is not transferred, always it will be supply of services. Sir, what is this universal statement you are making? I'm making it very clearly. The moment you transfer the title, ownership is transferred. See, there can be situation, risk and rewards can be transferred, possession can be transferred, control can be transferred. All will be transferred for a valid consideration. Title alone you will have. When you transfer title also, very simple. Supply of goods only it can be. Wherever title is transferred, in any item, title is transferred. I have arrived one formula. I'll rephrase it. I have a digital content. Now, I allow a person to use my digital content, which means I have not transferred the ownership of the digital content. I have given to another person to use my digital content. When I allow a person to use my digital content, am I giving him a limited right to use of the digital content, or am I allowing him to use it for whatsoever purposes? He can copy it, do it, everything. If you want, he can put it in YouTube, he can do in everything. Tomorrow, I would simply sue him for infringement of copyright. Of a copyrighted material, you are infringing on somebody else's right. Exactly that I want to try. Verbatim, all our discussions would be like this one. Where I call somebody, they say, here, take this sum, give the complete rights of all these digital content. It now belongs to ours. It is we who will deliver all these digital content. Good. If that be the situation, that is going to be the situation. Yes. If in case that is going to be the situation, where it would be treated as a supply of goods. Wherever title is transferred, supply of goods. Wherever title is not transferred, any transfer of right or undivided share in right of a goods without transfer of, WO stands for without transfer of title in goods, would be treated as supply of services. Any transfer of title in goods, look at that wording, transfer of title in goods at a future date. I gave you a small thumb rule. Whenever there is a title transfer, it will be treated as what? Supply of goods only. Whenever title is not transferred, it will be treated as supply of services only. Any lease, tenancy, or easement, or license to occupy a land. Right in the land. Let me repeat it, right in land. Whether they transfer that land wholly or partly. A right in the land, transfer of right in the land becomes a supply of services. Followed by treatment or process on another person's raw material. When A Limited process raw material of B Limited and comes up with the finished goods and supply the finished goods back to B Limited. B Limited sent raw material to A Limited. A Limited processed the raw material, converted the raw material into finished goods, gave back to B Limited the finished goods. In this process, A Limited is the person who converted raw material to finished goods. What he is doing? He is carrying out a treatment or process on another person's goods. Then it would be treated as supply of services. Followed by in case of any disposal or transfer of a business asset. Any transfer of a business asset that they are not going to use it anymore, it will be treated as supply of. You can think of impairmentation of asset. They dispose of. They completely dispose of. They don't want, they dispose of. They take away, they dispose of. In case of those aspects, no doubt, transfer or disposal of a business asset, then yes, it would be out from the tax. In case if a business asset, that is company's asset, is used for a private use or for any other purpose other than business, basically private use, personal use, employee use, not for business purpose, it would be treated as supply of service. The bigger organization will have challenges of this. A larger organization would have certain aircraft or certain identified special vehicles, chopper, all this and all. And those vehicles sometimes are used for personal purposes. In those circumstances, in all those circumstances, no doubt it would be treated as supply of services. Moving forward, for which some money would be paid. If a business asset held by a taxable person who is ceases to be a taxable person, if a registered person who ceases to be taxable person, he is going to close his business, or from today he is not going to be a registered person, then it would be treated as that he has sold all the goods. It would be treated as sale of goods. Actually, he sold it or not is indifferent. It would be treated as supply of goods. Few services, renting of immovable property would be treated as supply of services. Some of you think, sir, renting of immovable property service only. No. But understand, we have certain state entries which said renting of an immovable property, we are liable to pay certain license fee to the state government. So doubt came, who has power to tax? And it was constitutionally tested. Just for your information and consumption, we have a case of 2010, renting of immovable property, validity of renting of immovable property for levy of service tax is valid or not is pending before Supreme Court. And it is now referred to a 9-member bench decision. That is 9 judges, Supreme Court 9 judges will sit and give the validity of a constitutional understanding. If you're going to conclude, yes, right to levy service tax is valid, then that's all. All the other companies have to pay tax. Otherwise, yeah. Why I brought all this is, let's all carefully look at it in a different perspective. Now that's where it is important for us. In a renting of immovable property, government want to come out of all these disputes. Be the government. If you have any doubt, you come back here, read it. Activities, what? To be treated. I am saying, I am the lawmaker. I would come out and say, this should be treated as what? Supply of services. Now, a very important entry, construction of a complex, building, civil structure. If somebody is going to be involved in construction of a flat, construction of any commercial complex, and they sell, it would be treated as supply of services with the exception. Except when, look at that wording, entire consideration is received. Entire consideration is what received when after obtaining completion certificate. When a local authority will say your building is completed, when you have done everything. When you have done everything and building is completed, you don't have a standing immovable property? When a standing immovable property is now going to be sold, will you say it is a supply of a service or a sale of an immovable property? You will say it is a sale of immovable. That is why they said after completion certificate, money is received. entire money, not money received, entire money, which means what? Even 1 rupee if I collected before completion certificate, and 39 lakh 99,999 I collect only after completion certificate, entire 40 lakhs will be leviable to what? GST. Can you able to appreciate this discussion? Sir, my entire 40 lakhs is after completion certificate. No doubt it would tantamount to sale of immovable property not covered under GST. Now cross read your schedule 3, para 5, clause B. This is what? Schedule 3, para, in schedule 3 you referred, no? Schedule 2, para 5, clause B. This is para 5, clause B. What is your final answer, sir, here? Very simple. If in case somebody is going to book a house on 10th of May 20, okay, 10th of May won't work. Somebody is going to book a house now, let's say 10th of August 2020. The completion certificate was received on 31st August 2020. Okay, the whole building was completed. Completion certificate received on 31st August 2020. Now, 10th of August 2020. Let me repeat, 10th of August 2020. They all told that on 10th of August 2020, they all told that a person has booked a flat for 40 lakhs. Is it a supply of goods, supply of services, or sale of immovable property? Our answer would be sale of services. So, sorry, supply of services. On 10th of September, somebody book a flat and they're going to pay the consideration only after that. Then it will be treated as a sale of immovable property, not leviable to GST. Only one doubt might come for some of us. Sir, on 10th of August, I received only 1 lakh. 39 lakhs I received only on 15th of September on the date of registration. Come on. Entire consideration is the important. Have you received your entire consideration after completion certificate? If your answer is yes, then not leviable to GST. If your answer is no, then yes, leviable to GST. Coming back here, schedule 2, supply of goods or services, where any development, design, programming, or upgradation, customization, implementation on information technology software would be treated as supply of services. Again, here also, temporary transfer or permitting the use of an intellectual property right, which I thought, that's why I never discussed. If you're going to give somebody to use an intellectual property right, a digital content, a book, a digital book, or it is going to be a copyrighted item or a patented item or a technical know-how or a design, whatever artistic work, a case or a script, then it will go to the other. Followed by any act of refrain from doing something or tolerating something would be treated as supply of services. If you tolerate something, if you refrain yourself from doing something, we treat as supply of services. Any right to use a goods. What do we mean by right to use a goods, sir? Ownership will not be transferred. You book a Zoom car, you get a right to use, that's all. In case of right to use of goods, it will be treated as supply of services. Sometimes there is a composite supply. What do we mean by a composite supply? Immediately we will take it up once this discussion is over. In case of composite supply, we have two broader composite supplies. One is a works contract. Another one is a supply of goods being food by a restaurant or an outdoor camp. Idli, vada, sambar. Is it a supply of goods or a supply of service? Let me repeat. Idli, vada, sambar. Is it a supply of goods or a supply of services? If you have something in your mind, very simple. Idli, vada, sambar is a supply of service. Government deems. You cannot say. Similarly, you're going to engage a contractor and construct your house. You told him, I will give you 20 lakhs. I have the land. You are not buying land. Land, building with construction, all that means it is, if you buy the flat from a builder, look at my buddy. If you buy the flat from the builder, construction of complex service. Father already purchased the land. On the father purchased land, we are going to, our ancestral land, we are going to what? Construct a house. At that time, it will become what? Your works contract services. In case of works contract services, law is in case of works contract services. On all these works contract services, the law makes a deeming fiction where there is a material, where there is a labor, and there is a construction of an immovable property. It would be treated as works contract. It would be also treated as a supply of service. Similarly, any supply of goods by a club or association to its member would be treated as supply of goods. So this sums up our discussion relating to Schedule 2, whether a transaction would be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Sir, how can I can test myself? You can test yourself like this. The moment next time you happen to see a transaction, and if you could able to conclude some of these transactions correctly, for example, if I'm going to ask, renting of immovable property is what? You're going to come up with the right answer for this. You are concluding it as, it is a supply of service as per Schedule 2. Then you understood this topic. I'm going to come out and say, I am a caterer. I'm engaging in A to Z of the marriage contract, where the most important ingredient of marriage contract is supply of food to 5,000 people who come for this marriage, or 5,000 meals over the various days of marriage, let's say 3 days of marriage. A 7 lakh rupee or 8 lakh rupee I will be paid. Now, if you read through, analyze all this, though you supply this central prime ingredient is what? You are an outdoor caterer who's providing catering services. It would be supply of food, which is again a supply of services. Followed by someone say, we do designing, we do customization, we do tailoring of your existing software and ensure it suits you. Good. Supply of service. No, we will do codes, master codes, everything, put it in a CD and then send it to you, put it in a thumb drive, put it in a media drive and give it back to you. And the moment it put into a medium, it takes the characteristics of goods. Can you able to understand these discussions? This is how it has been happened in relation to our discussions. So next time when you come across a flat that I book before completion certificate, supply of services. The flat I book after completion certificate and pay money completely after completion certificate, it is not an immovable. That's all. If you could able to grasp all this, that concludes that you are comfortable in your Schedule 2. As I earlier mentioned, this is the definition for works contract, nothing great, construction, erection, commissioning, installation, fitting out, maintenance, renovation, all this on what? Immovable property. Where there is a transfer of property in goods is involved. You use goods, no? Cement, steel, hardware, everything is goods. With that only you make a immovable property, which should be treated as a works contract, basically. Actually, you should not come out and say, I'm selling goods. You put goods, you also put your services, do something and give it back to me, called as a works contract. That works contract get its importance like this. Follow. A last part of our discussion for this session. Composite or mixed supply. What do we mean by composite supply? What would we mean by mixed supply? Come back and discuss this definition. Section 2, subsection 30 defines the term composite supply. Composite supply means supply made by a taxable person to a recipient consisting of 2 or more taxable supply of goods or services, or both, in any combination, which are naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction in the ordinary course of business, of which one is a principal supply. 2-3 words are important. It is a composite supply made or agreed to be made by a recipient. Made by the recipient, taxable person to a recipient. Leave it. Two or more taxable supplies, two or more taxable supply, naturally bundled, of which one is a principal supply. You procure a mobile phone. Inside the mobile phone, there is a headset, there is a charger. You're procuring what? Headset or charger or mobile phone. Now the mobile phone percentage of tax is increased. Earlier it used to be 12%. Headset used to be 18% rate of tax. Charger used to be 18%. Now, you can ask me why you are discussing with percentage. I discuss with percentage honestly because this topic warrants that discussion. Now, your product should be taxed at what rate? To say my product should be taxed at a low rate or high rate, first you have to establish is your product is a composite supply or a mixed supply. My product now, to start with, there is a supply by a person to a recipient. It consists of two or more supply. Two or more items are there, supply of items are there, yes, which are naturally bundled, which means what? Not artificially bundled, not naturally bundled. It is naturally bundled. Its business model is like that, naturally bundled in the ordinary course of supply, of which one is what? A principal supply. What is a principal supply here? Is it the charger? Is it the headset or the mobile phone? Mobile phone. So, rate of tax will be determined based on mobile phone. Two or more supplies, of which one is a principal supply and naturally bundled. The rate of tax will be based on principal supply. Only for that purposes we read principal supply means supply of goods or services which constitutes the predominant element of a composite supply. What is main? Predominant element. See, look at the wordings. That will give you a lot of ideas. Other supply forming part of composite supply is ancillary. The rest all is ancillary, but there is a predominant element. I'll give you one more example. Maybe that gives you a best understanding. There was a organization whose main business is providing hotel related services, where they told, come and stay in our hotel. Sorry. Come and stay in our hotel. You will be allowed to use the gymnasium. You'll be allowed to use swimming pool, everything, including a complimentary breakfast. In fact, for all this is money involved in it. For swimming, they allocate 500 rupees. For gym, a day use, they allocate 500 rupees. For early morning breakfast, they allocate 1,000 rupees. Overall, room rent is 15,000 rupees per day. I'm talking of those levels only. My intention is, are there not three or more four services? Gymnasium services, swimming pool services, business center services, followed by stay related services, supply of food at restaurant, two or more supplies, which are naturally bundled, supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. Understandable, of which one is a principal supply. For what main purpose that individual came to the hotel? To stay. So, this is an example. Or else we would have traveled in Shatabdi Express, specifically Shatabdi Express. Best part of the train is you will be served with nice food, edible items periodically with little intervals. Now, is it not a composite supply? You pay a 999 rupees ticket, executive ticket, okay, not a economy ticket, an executive ticket. So your day will start with a water bottle, newspaper, welcome drink, followed by a continental breakfast, then the regular Indian breakfast, then yet another coffee, then the afternoon lunch if the travel requires 8 hours plus traveling time, and then by the time you'll reach it, there's going to be a tough time between hand and mouth. That's all. Beyond that, nothing great during that 6 hours. But here, you cannot skip that food. You have to buy it. That's all. That's how it's sandwiched. You consume it, you don't consume it. We don't bother about it. But you have to buy it. In this background, at this background, core discussion for us is it not a composite supply? Outdoor catering service, liable at different rate. Transportation of passengers, liable at a different rate. What is predominant? A person came to Shatabdi train for having food or traveling. Take decisions based on this. Mixed supply. Two or more independent supply or an individual supplies. Supplied in conjunction with each other. Again, all that is there for a single price. Which supply does not constitute a composite supply. Individual supplies, two or more individual supplies for a single price and does not constitute a composite supply. If it is not a composite supply, then it will become a mixed supply. So every time first the test will be only on composite supply. If something is not a composite supply and there is an element of single price and a more than two individual supplies is present, it will tantamount to mixed supply. I am not plainly concluding if something is not a composite supply, it will be a mixed supply. 99% it's like that only. If your transaction is a single supply, one item you sold, you received money, matter ends there. Two items are involved and it goes. And then need for composite supply comes. It is a composite supply, matter ends there. In case if it is not a composite supply, then make the test. Is it two or more items? Is there is a single price and it is not a composite supply, it will be treated as a mixed supply. It is going to be jam, ketchup, bread, biscuit, dry fruits, and what else I left out here? Chocolate. All are packed together, comes you as a gift, or it is available in the stores for 2,500 rupees only. A person bought it and gave it to you. What he is buying? Composite supply or mixed supply? There is two or more individual supplies? Yes. Are they supplied in conjunction with each other? Yes. For a single price? Yes. Is it a composite supply? Is it naturally bundled? What? Jam, ketchup, bread, biscuit, this, chocolate, everything? Not naturally bundled. So mixed supply. In case of mixed supply, the highest rate of tax, a supply which is liable to highest rate of tax would be applicable. Among 5-6 items, which has the highest rate of tax, that would be applicable. If a person purchase a gift, let's say it has a pen, it has a belt, it has a wallet, it has a keychain, it has a tie, a men's grooming pack for 2,500 rupees. Here, do you find any natural bundling of this? Yes, sir, all are related to men. From the product perspective, you have to think. From the service perspective, you have to think. If your answer is no, not naturally, then we will conclude very comfortably. It will tantamount to a mixed supply. So, whether something is a composite supply or mixed supply is a separate area for discussion by itself, and it has to be decided more carefully. Some cases, this discussion is not little interesting. Maybe cases like in a laptop, software is preloaded and given to us. Is it composite or mixed supply? At no stretch of imagination, it cannot be treated as a mixed supply, because for running this, running this mission, you require a software. That too certain, I would not say application software, certain mainstream softwares or certain malwares or certain product-based softwares. That software will work only in that system. We have certain products like that. In those cases, it will be treated as only composite supply. Why I never brought that example is, be it a sale of a information technology product, be it a sale of software, are both liable for 18%. What charm you get by seeing a chocolate and a jam 12, chocolate 18, you have a conflict to discuss. In this case of software and laptop, you don't have a conflict to discuss because the rate is same. You say composite supply, you say mixed supply, answer remains same, correct? But in other cases, let's take up this example. It's a practice of this company. Whenever the laptop is sold, it is sold with a bag. So it's not like other companies will sell only laptop. They'll sell a bag along with it. HP gives you a nice bag. Dell gives you a nice bag. Now, is it a composite supply or a mixed supply? Let's go back to the basics. Supply made by a taxable person to a recipient, consisting of two or more taxable supply, bag, laptop, which are naturally bundled. Yes, again, of which one is a principal supply. What it is? Check that, which is going to be laptop. So tax would be decided based on that. So yes, so that is how a decision has to be made, whether it is a composite supply or mixed supply. Let me repeat it. This is one topic. The more you know, the more unknown opens, and you have to take control of it by reading those specific definitions associated. In our next video, we'll make a discussion on all those transactions relating to levy under GST. Thank you all for effective and patient listening.